will be adding scroll effect. So whenever user is scrolling vertically, the window is moving to the right. We are using this in our portfolio for rendering the models. If you are already familiar with GSAP, then here is the code that we are gonna do. I'll explain what this code is, but if you want to skip this video, I recommend pausing this video here and add all this code to your repo. Let's start by removing this cube. One more thing, we have installed Tailwind for styling. I recommend you to install that so that you can easily follow this tutorial. In order to install it, you just have to Google and then follow these steps and you will install Tailwind in no time. Let's jump to our code base. First, we'll create a component folder. We'll have two components. One will be a card and second will be a section that will contain those cards. We'll name them as featured card. We'll have one heading. Then info tag. So let's import React as a and export. We will copy this and rename it as featured action. I know we can have plugin and shortcuts to set up the boilerplate, but for a long time I'm not using VS Code. I have shifted to Cursor, so I have to reinstall this. And this is not like the ideal setup. But if you have that, then good for you. Now, these featured cards will be imported inside the section, and feature card will import in App.js. Now, if you see, we can see title and info. Anyway, let's move to the next step. In featured section, we'll have extra width that we'll keep scrolling using GSAP. So for the extra width, let's give first full height and then width to 400 VW. Now it is 4x the current screen. That is cool. Now we want each card to occupy full viewport. So for that, we'll add some styling here as well. We have 4 screens, so each one will have 25% width, 100 divided by total number of screen. Then flex so that we'll have some control on the positioning. Now if we see in the browser, we'll see you can scroll to the right, but we want it ideally to be scrolled when we are scrolling it vertically. We'll do that using GSAP. But first, let's continue with the styling. We'll go to featured section. Now we'll create a data that we'll be referring to. Now we have one feature card, but now we will map this data to the feature card like this. Then let's maybe this here, and we can pass key as ID. Title. We will have to do data.id here. Now we want to go inside feature card and use those parameters. Let's see if we can see them here. Not yet. If you see, these need some styling. So we'll use flex. By just typing flex, we can see these are coming horizontally. That's great progress. And let's see why we have this spacing here. Probably some the mean. Yeah, root level styles. Let add in 0 margin. Yeah, here it is. Let's remove these all. Now, this is ready, but we want to animate this horizontally when user is scrolling vertically. To do that, we're using the GSAP ScrollTrigger. You can Google and learn more about this. And if you click on Kickstart, you'll see first we'll need to register the plugin that is called ScrollTrigger to GSAP. We'll be using pin, start, and scrub for our animation. Don't worry if you don't understand it. I'll explain each of them when we are using it. This plugin will help us add any scroll related animations. If we add it here, the React people will complain. Why? Because this will run on each re-render. Every time this component is updated or its parent is updated, it will re-register the scroll trigger. This is not a best place to put it. So one way is to use effect. In that you can pass a function and tell React when to run that function by passing dependencies. Here you can pass state 1, state 2, or pass nothing here. According to that, this function will run. We can use this, but there are multiple issues with use effect. One, it run after DOM is painted. Second, GSAP need to register plugin before DOM is painted. Why is this a problem? So imagine you have some states here, like state A. Let me put it inside the comment. And then state B. We'll call it initialize and end. DOM will be painted and then GSAP will run. In meantime, user will see some random state. So to fix all those, we'll use another plugin by React, which is use layout effect. This will solve the problem because it run before DOM is painted, and just because it run before, this issue is also resolved. But you have to keep in mind, do not pass anything excessive in use layout effect because this thing is sync process. So until this function is not finished, React won't paint anything on the browser. So you don't pass anything very expensive here because that will result your user to wait for a long time to see anything in the browser. So that's a little bit about React. Next part is to pass the config. If we scroll here and see, you see they are using timeline, but we'll be using context. Why? Because one, it will help us keep the scope of animation to this component, and second, it will provide a function that will help us clean up when this component is unmounted from the DOM. Let's proceed with that. In context, we'll pass config, but first let's write cleanup function so you don't forget it. Now here we'll need to do multiple things. Let me use these for comments. First, we'll need to define scope of animation. We'll use this so that it won't affect the animation on any other part of this project. Second, we need to know elements to animate. And third one will be which in this answer is simple. We'll need to animate X position, which is responsible for the horizontal scroll. Then we need to know trigger, like which component is triggering. If you don't pass this, then our animation will run as soon as there is a scroll on the website. Think it like this way. If this component is not in the beginning, but at the end of your website, then the animation will not begin when this component is visible, but in fact when the scroll is happening on the top of the website. Fifth and final is animation config. Yeah, so let's jump to it. First, let's pass this ref for gsap.context as a scope. And one more thing here, this is X%, not X position. Now scope of animation is done. Now we need to get the element of animation. Basically, we want to animate these sections, so we'll get them using feature part class name. We'll use GSAP util function, get an array of these arguments, and then we'll use gsap.to function. We'll pass section here and tell gsap to animate the section based on the config that we are going to pass. You can come here and check what values we can pass. So we'll be passing pin true for it to stay in the browser until the animation from start to end is finished. So let's pass it. Add scroll trigger here and pass pin as true. And here we'll have to pass which property we are gonna animate. Say X%, and starting will be 0. We want it to move to left. So we'll say -100% to left, but this will only animate till the one window. But we have multiple sections, so we'll multiply the 100 by section dot length -1. We'll need -1, otherwise it will do extra animation. So yeah, you can look it closely, you'll find the reason. Then we'll say pin true, and we'll need to pass trigger. Trigger is when we'll reach this node where I want animation to get triggered. We'll pass container.current. So container ref.current will give actual node, but here only ref is expected as second parameter, so we want to current here. Then we'll need to pass start of the animation, which will be 0 of this container. If you want to set some offset, then you can pass 100 or something here. It will scroll after you scroll 100 pixel for this container. Now we want it to end at something, so we can use static value here for this, but let's use container f for getting the internal width of this whole sections. You can pass this as a, sometimes they can give error, so it's better to be safe. We'll need to pass using function. We'll use none here. If we come here, we'll check, we can see there is one other property which is scrub. So this will add some nice delay. Now if I come here, we can see the animation. So yeah, that is done. Now in next video, we'll be working on building this scroll status bar. This is important because otherwise people may get frustrated because they won't know when the scroll is ending. So I'll see you there.